Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering video. So today I'm going to revisit the Deck Builders Toolkit for M19, which I recently unboxed, and I'm actually going to take a look at some various deck building strategies that you can use to turn the contents of the toolkit into a deck. Now, one of the problems with the toolkit, I think, is that obviously if you're just going to use the contents of the toolkit alone, like what I'm going to do in this video effectively, is you're going to be fairly limited by obviously what cards you have. So that's going to restrict the power of the deck that you build. You're going to notice that the deck that is constructed out of this toolkit, because of the choice of cards here, you're almost going down a Singleton route. So it's going to give you very much like a Highlander EDH experience in terms of how single cards like synergize with each other. Now, I quite like building that way myself. It makes you sort of think more about synergies than another possible strategy, which is basically to just build a good stuff deck. That's not to say you might not be able to build a good stuff deck, and certainly if you combine multiple colours together you could just play good stuff. But one thing I think it's good to get your head round is how different cards in the different colours can synergize together. The other thing I think is important to remember that all of these products that we see don't exist in a vacuum. One way to look at it is they exist within some marketing strategy. And I think if you really want to get some understanding of how the Deck Builders Toolkit in their current incarnation fit in with Wizards' overall marketing plan, I definitely would tap into the WPN resource, the Wizards Play Network. Anybody can access that online resource. It's just a question of finding it. One possible route to find it is to just Google, I think if you do WPN and then Deck Builders Toolkit, and try and find a link to the most recent description of it on the Wizards Play Network, and it gives you this if you like path that they see new players taking, where they're sort of going, okay, maybe they've got hold of a intro deck, as I think it might be called. That's one of the little 30 card decks that I believe game stores hand out for free, and then they've gone and they bought an M19 Planeswalker deck, and then they've gone out and bought a toolkit. So that's the route that they see people taking from a marketing perspective. As we know, people buy on to Magic from lots of different areas, and it's quite possible someone might go out and just buy this Deck Builders Toolkit. So I'm working from that position that we have nothing apart from this at our disposal, and just see where it takes us from a deck building adventure, I suppose. Obviously when I'm putting this together, I'm going to be biased by certain preferences in terms of putting stuff, or the way I am, where my sort of deck building mind space is at the moment. So my guess is it's going to be heavily influenced by a lot of Singleton considerations, like, you know, Highlander, EDH, Brawl, that sort of stuff. But hopefully, if maybe that's not the way anybody watching this video is thinking, I'm sufficiently padding it out with other stuff that you're going to get something of value out of this process. So you can see I've got the cards laid out in front of me. This is very much unscripted, apart from a few notes of colour combinations and themes that I noticed as I was really just collating after the unboxing. You have to excuse, I might be a bit bunged up. It's sort of humid weather time in Nova Scotia at the moment, and it does unfortunately make me quite bunged up. So other things we're going to do is we're going to use the this little thing, which is the Deck Builder's Guide, to try and provide some sort of direction with our building. So what we're going to do is we are going to build a 60 card deck. So this assumes that you have this toolkit, you're just trying to put a deck together. I have mentioned before another way you can approach this, and in some ways it's my preferred way to do toolkits, although it's not the way they're necessarily intended to be used, but I just like doing it, is for a couple of people to buy one each, and you just use it like a sealed pool. So you basically crack open the toolkit, play a bit of pack walls if you want to with the booster packs, because you've got the land there to do that. Then basically sit down and just build a 40 card sealed deck from what you've got. Obviously with this particular Deck Builder's Toolkit, the contents is a lot similar between deck toolkits than it was in previous incarnations of this. So therefore the only bit that's going to vary is the 4 boosters and the contents of those boosters. So it might be that if 2 people sat down and had a seal pool, possibly the decks would be very similar. Depends again what strategies they want to play within the cards that you get, and then whether or not they're just using the boosters to flavour that in some way, to add the icing on the cake, or whether they're just using primarily the boosters and then round the other way using the other cards, the core content, the stuff that doesn't change, to basically make up for not missing cards, but just make up their deck, make with playables basically. You're not going to notice other things like there's a good degree of what people would call sideboard cards in here, particularly in certain colours, and that I think is going to present a problem for anybody if they're going to try to build a monocolour deck with just the contents of this Deck Builder's Toolkit. I've noticed that if you were going to go monocolour, then in terms of just the amount of cards you've got here, green, black and blue are really the only colours you could go for. Admittedly, you could go primarily mono, splashing another colour, that would work. But if you do go down a monocolour route with this toolkit, you're going to end up with a lot of cards that, strictly speaking, should be in the sideboard. So just be forewarned, it's unlikely that we're going to build a monocolour deck here. As tempting it is to build some unholy green fatties deck, we're basically revolving around dinosaurs. I don't think I'm going to go down that route, sorry. Other things you'll notice, there's quite a few artifacts which could go into any deck. So again, if you were going down the route of monocolour, you would definitely want to pull a lot of the sideboard playable stuff from your monocolour deck and stick in the artifacts which would be playable. But some of those again are only relevant in certain decks, and there are a couple of synergies in here which they highlight in the book. That's not the only ones. So yeah, 60 card deck, it's going to be 2 to 3 colours, and I'll talk a little bit about, with this particular deck builders, maybe how the choice of 2 or 3 colours is going to affect you in ways of what you're going to lose, what you're going to gain, maybe what it's going to give you in terms of the balance between good stuff and synergies, and how that sometimes plays off as you sort of increase the number of colours and how you do that. I can't build all the combinations, there's not just that would be a series of 10 videos, but what I'm going to try and do is, because this is planning on being a longer video, I'm going to talk around some of that stuff as we move towards the colour combination that basically I fancy building in this deck. says you can play up to 4 copies of any card except basic lands. You can play as many of those as you want. A typical deck will have a 24 to 25 lands, 17 to 22 creatures, and 13 to 18 other spells. Sorting your cards by colour and type will make it easier to build decks. That's very good advice. We're going to have a look also. So this bit here, this is really just highlighting what the different colours are. I was going to say famous for, but I think you know what I mean. Yeah, their identities, their strengths, their weaknesses. One of the main advantages in building 2 colour or more decks is what you're really doing is you're taking the single colours and making up for their weaknesses by adding a second colour which has strengths in those weaknesses. As I've said, they mention a couple of synergies. They've got the Blanchwood armour targeting Druid of Horns. Now I think in this there's only like 1 of those each, so you know, in a 60 card deck you have to play the deck several times for that to happen. And I think that's another thing here. This definitely is going to end up like a you know, a EDH like experience, but without ever playing a general. And then we've got this white black regal Bloodlord, I think that is, with a Diamond Mare synergy, 2-guard combo. Gets lots of bats out. The problem with this when you've got singletons is, of course, if there's no tutoring going on, you're relying on the luck of the draw, really. And also on mana curve. I think this is the point at which the wheels may fall off of this, but we'll see. Again, with our fairly limited card pool, it is quite tough to get a good mana, mana curve going sometimes. You know, but we'll see. So I'm going to keep this in mind. Really, you know, when you look at this, what is it telling you? Well, it's telling you that the vast majority, or a good percentage of your cards, are around the 2 to 3 drop. You know, with the 1-drop cards, there's a lot of stuff there that very quickly, unless you get it out early in the game, becomes less usable. And has less utility. So, you know, if you've got a 1/1 for 1, it's okay, great if you manage to get that out turn 1, but as the game progresses and larger stuff comes out, it sort of turns into a chump blocker. Admittedly, there's certain removal stuff that does occur around that mana cost, but again, that's not necessarily the case, and it can be quite specific with that lower cost. And then as we get up to the higher mana costed stuff on the curve, obviously the nice thing about that is because there's less of it, it's less likely to appear earlier in the game, just probability wise. So it's nice that it appears at the end. And that's the other thing, is the reason why you don't want a lot of them in your deck is you don't want to draw them early. Because then if you get, you know, say that's a good example here, a Gouty Primal Hunger in your opening hand, which is 10 and 2 green, that's going to be a little while before you can cast that, and it's clogging up your hand. Okay, so let's just crack on in. That's rather a long introduction there, but I thought it was good to just lay a bit of groundwork here. Okay, so as I've said, I've pretty much excluded building a monocolour deck. We have everything here on camera that's in the deck. You can see the rather large pile here is a combination of the basic lands and the non-basics. We've got a Rupture Spire, which gives us mana fixing across all the colours, and then also in the deck, if you remember, there was 2 each of all of the dual tap lands here. There's 20 lands in each colour, or basic lands, and let's have a look and see where we could go with this. So just so you can see the cards that would be technically playable in a lot of different decks, but just depending on what you were trying to achieve with whether you want to play them. We've got interesting, the Diamond Mare. There was a combo that was mentioned. So this is like a life gain artifact creature. We've got a vanilla artifact creature. We've got Gargoyle Sentinel, which where you can sort of flip it from being a 3/3 for 3 defender. For 3 you can make it lose defender and it gain flying, and then Blood Tallow Candle. We've got removal, so target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn, but that's 6 to actually activate that, and you have to sack it. And then we've got Explosive Apparatus. Similar sort of concept here, lower activation cost, same casting cost. Again, you sack it and it deals 2 damage but to any target. So lower, less damage there effectively, but of course it can target anything. We've got some equipment. Pirate's Cutlass obviously works well in a pirate deck. We've got Rose Gloves, card draw when the equipped creature does combat damage. Cast 2 to cast, equipped for 2. Yeah, playable in anything with creatures. And Strider Harness just gives +1/+1 and haste. It's equipped for 1 and it's 3 to cast. Then we've got a number of mana rocks and mana acceleration artifacts. So we've got Orzhaka Relic with Ascend on it. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the city's blessing for the rest of the turn. Tap, add 1 to your mana pool. Tap, sacrifice Orzhaka Relic. You gain 3 life and draw a card. Activate the ability only if you have the city's blessing. Manalith, 3 to cast, and you can tap, add 1 mana of any colour. If we go down a 3 colour route, this might have to feature in our deck. And then Skittering Surveyor, 3 to cast, it's 1/2. When Skittering Surveyor enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library, and there's a couple of those. So we now move on to this bit. So this is where I'm going to really use my inspiration for building here, rather than just go through like I would normally do, probably with a pool, take out all the chaff, and then pretty much start off by trying to locate a good stuff deck, or just see which colours are strongest in terms of the creatures and removal, and bombs. Look at the rares. I'm actually going to use these cards. Now, often I've referred to these when we've been talking about opening boosters as draft indicators, I think is the term I use. I don't know if that's the official term. But the idea behind these, you often get these in draft. They're 2 colour uncommons, and they sort of suggest a potential draft strategy if you draft them early in the game. So we're actually going to use this as inspiration for the deck building here. So we've got white blue aerial engineer, so that's going to take us down the artifact flyer route. We've got a blue black, which would take us round the sort of flying discard card draw route. I don't see much discard in the deck, and this only triggers when you enter the battlefield, but you do get card draw off of it. Pretty high cost though, but that might be useful later in the game when when your hand's pretty empty. One thing we're really strong in, the card that actually came with as part of the non-changing part of the toolkit, the non-random bit, was the Brawl Bash Ogre. So it's got Menace on it. It's a 2 black red for 3/3 with Menace. Whenever Brawl Bash Ogre attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, Brawl Bash Ogre gets +2/+2 until end of turn. We also had a Garner the Blood Flame, with flash on it, and this was pulled out of one of our boosters, a Dominaria booster. And then we also have got a Direfleet Captain as well. Yeah, good if we want to build a pirate themed deck in black red. And then we've got red green. Interesting, it's a creature with a mana generation ability on it. And also for 7 we can tap it, sacrifice it, and create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. So if we go down the green-white route, enchantment matters here. You'll see there's that green combo here between, is it Blanchwood Armour, and I'm trying to remember the other card, I did mention it early on in the video. White-black vampires, life gain, who cares about life, it's flying and bats. And then we've got this blue-red, cares about instants and sorceries. Black-green, death touch reach, whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life, so it cares about stuff dying. As I started flicking through these before, I'm starting to look at 3-colour black, green, red actually, because there's interesting synergies there. Heroic reinforcements, red, white, create 2/1/1 soldier creature tokens until end of turn. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste. So we got red, white tokens and pump going on there. And then Skyrider Patrol, green, blue, flying, elf scout. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, you may pay green, blue. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control, and that creature gains flying until end of turn. So we've got +1/+1 counters on there. And you can see I'm already doing this. As I go through this, I start to look at 3 colours. I can't help it. I suppose it's also doing that Sekir Deathkeeper Jund graveyard deck. And so already I am getting biased towards 3 colours. The main problem you're going to have in here with building a 3-colour deck is you can see most of the mana fixing is pretty slow, so it does mean that the deck will be on the slower side as you go into that sort of 3rd colour. I mean, obviously you're going to be using the mana fixing in the 2-colour deck, but you're obviously going to be tending to put less in, because it's easier to fix for 2 colours than it is for more, for 3 or 4 or 5. So where am I going to go with this? Well, we've probably guessed already. I tend initially to go with the things that start to stand out the most. The other thing is, when I used to draft a lot online, I tend to fall back to my favourites, which is sort of blue-white flyers, or some sort of longer game blue-black strategy, which is heavy on the removal, or sort of blue-black splashing red for more removal. I have also done things like, with certain sets, gone down more of a Jund route, or a red, white, green build, particularly when I draft stuff like Shards of Alara. But I think with this, let's commit ourselves already. So let's just pull out our old friend Jund. So what have we got here? So we've got Poison Tipped Archer, can have that in the deck. Gone on the Blood Flame, black red, flash. When gone on the Blood Flame into the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Other creatures you control have haste. It's going in Broadbrash Ogre. With Menace, the creature can't be blocked. Whenever Broadbrash Ogre attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, Broadbrash Ogre gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So we can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, and we can sack creatures, which is going to trigger Poison Tip Archer's ability. Whenever Direfleet Captain attacks, you get +1/+1 until end of turn for each other attacking pirate. It's actually a bear. It's a black-red bear, so it's 2 mana for 2 with this extra ability on it. Obviously calling a pirate deck. I'm going to pull that to one side. I don't foresee us ending up with a heavy amount of pirates looking in here. There's a lot of pirates in blue. We're not playing blue. There's pirates in black. And I can't remember if I saw any red or not. But for the moment, that just goes off to the side there. Draconic Discipline. 1 red green. It's a 2/2. It's mana fixing. 7. It gets a 5/5. I think I'm going to put that in as well. So already we've got 4 cards which contribute. So basically, when we build the deck, you know, remember I was saying about the breakdown of lands, creatures, and spells. Another good value to have in your head, just by looking at the lands and the spell and the creatures and the other spells, is overall creatures and spells together, or creatures and other spells together, because creature is a spell. We want 35 to 36. So we've already got these here. So what I'm doing really with this way is I'm in some ways doing it the reverse of what I'll often do, which is I'm actually looking at the multicolored cards first. Often what I'll do is go through, like I said, with the individual mono colors and see how far down in terms of, you know, can I play mono, can I play 2, can I play 3, and do it that way, in considering also if there's a bomb there that might bias me. So this is interesting switch out for me, just trying it this way to see what I end up with. So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at the sort of things that are available to us. If we play those 3 colours, you know, again considering what could we potentially play, and then we'll probably pull these out. Now this is a mana rock. It's got card draw in it, it's got life gain. Does it really belong in this deck? It depends. I think I'm going to put it to one side for the moment. We've got a couple of more useful mana rocks, and these can generate any of this, notice the same casting cost. Definitely going to add those to the pile. We might take them out if we've got better cards and we don't want to slow the deck down too much. Skittering Surveyor. Again, I'm going to put these in for the moment. Again, I might take them out because they're going to be competing with a creature slot. So we're just going to leave in the colours that we're going to play. So white goes out straight away. I've organised these in order of rarity first, so you can just see what bombs I might be not including. So we got Sarah's Guardian was our rare that got pulled. I think this was in the toolkit actually. Leonine Vanguard, Ajani's Pride Mate. This would really be a cool colour to go down if you wanted to do, like, there's tons of different stuff in here. You know, we looked at the two colour draft indicator cards. In terms of 3 colours, other interesting interactions you could get going. I believe there's like a white, black, green thing going on here because of some of the stuff in the white black life gain deck seem to care about auras as well. You know, white green's like the colour of auras often, so that one might be an interesting 3 colour combination with white black green. Black, red, green's the one we're doing. Red, blue, black. There's like a soldier pirate tribal thing that you could do in white, blue, black. White, blue, green would be a... What did I put down here? So we've got white, bluing, where there's a flying artifacts. And I did notice there was a counter theme within that. So you're sort of adding the green. So what you're doing is you're sort of adding in an extra colour here to just increase that theme in some way. So I was noticing the flying artifacts, there was some counter stuff going on there. So the green cards would give you more of that sort of counters and pump. And then I also noticed like a red, white, blue, where you've got the Sorceries Matters red, blue thing going on, but there was also some token stuff in white, which often are sorcery spells. So again, you know, that interaction going on there. So again, this nice thing happens when you start to go into the third colour, whether it is a third colour or whether it's a splash. So again, stuff to look out for. So yeah, it's a pretty cool. You know, I was very tempted by that sort of white black life gain, and then splashing another colour to basically give us a bit more stuff to work with. Other indicators you can use, you know, is to go down. You know, look for tribal stuff is another cool one. You know, you can start pulling out all the pirates in this, and then there's a bit of a pirate merfolk crossover maybe going on, and seeing where that takes you. This is one of the rares that I pulled in a booster, I think. I'm having trouble remembering. I think all the ones that were in the rares, yeah, were M19 rares that were in the actual non-random element. There's Wizard's Matter cards in here. I did have a quick flick through. There's a few wizards in here. You could sort of go somewhere with that. Like Wizard, Merfolk, Pirate mashup. I think if you were doing the white-blue thing, then obviously that was more the Artificer route, possibly. Okay, so I've actually jumped around a little bit. I just thought about that. I just wanted to thin that down a bit probably before I spoke about these. Because as I was taking those out, it's going to affect some of this stuff. Because I pulled out a lot of pirate stuff, I'm going to remove Pirate Cutlass. Again, nice thing with artifacts is a lot of these like work on different things. We've got Rogue's Glove. Whenever a quick creature deals combat damage, you may draw a card. I'm going to just include that in our pile. And Strider's Harness. 3 in quick creature gets +1/+1 and has haste and equip for 1. So already in our, you know, possible plays stuff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got already 10 out of 35 or 36. So that leaves us having to find 15 or 16 as we pull the other cards out. We're gonna probably take some of this out, and then in this pile again, I don't really want to play that. Maybe I'm not that desperate. It's about for choose a card. This isn't really about life gain. I'm not going to pull that in. There's not going to be the white black card in there to do the combo. 3/3 for 3 defender. 3 to make it, give it defender and flying, or to remove defender and flying. There's a couple of removals there. I'm going to put that to one side for the moment, and then if we get short on stuff, you know, we might not bother. We might, sorry, bring it back in. Okay, so Okay, so we're looking at our black stuff first of all, going through, just looking for stuff that doesn't synergize with anything. There's our life gain. That's a sideboard card. That only really works if you've got lots of rats. Yeah, and something that cares about dying. So it's pretty heavy, you know. I'm not going to change my mind now. Interesting. Wow, I didn't realise there was quite so much cares about life gain in this. Duress. Take those out. I don't always like enchantments as a strategy. So I'll tell you what we'd do. We're going to end up with a lot of stuff here. I'm going to just take out. Yeah, too risky. It's always interesting when you've got like removal attached to a creature. I'm not playing historic spells. Don't care about life gain. I don't really like 1/1s, even if they do pump. Take that out. Keep that out. Don't want a life link. Okay. It's a bit situational. Okay. Okay. Vampires. Card drawn, because I'm not a big fan of enchantments. Unless you're doing some sort of clever Voltron thing. Interesting. There's a ton of removal in here, you know. Some interesting, what would you call it? Combat tricks going on. This is actually quite tricky. Okay, we're not playing elves. This is the one I was most concerned about. It's in a 3-colour deck. We've got 3 green. I don't know how playable that's going to be. The other one we got a problem with is this, although as we get creatures into play, it costs less to cast. So I'm just going to go for it. We're not playing Fungusus. Thrashing Brontosaur. Yeah, this one, whenever you cast an aura spell, I'm not playing auras, so these don't really make any sense. Mana fixing. This counts as matter. In library in any order. So I'm just looking for mana ramp. This isn't really about creating tokens. Okay, that's a sideboard card, that's a sideboard card, so is that. Cares about. Don't really want that, I'm not going to be playing enough legendaries. Good way of dealing with flyers. Fight. These were interesting. I actually got 3 of these ultimately. So again, if you were doing that sort of aura deck, the green white one, maybe splashing another colour, that would be really cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, let's put him in. Why not? Because we can. Okay, hang on, that was the ones I didn't want, so I'm just trying to get myself sorted out here. Okay, Ship and Dragon. Yeah, Two-Headed Giant, Lightning Strike, remove a go whenever an instance. So that cares about, yeah, we don't need that. That cares about instants and sorceries. More dinosaurs, more dragons. That cares about wizards. Sacrifice. Instant and all sorcery cards in your graveyard. Okay. Doesn't really want to be a token. We've got a Rummager. Shock. Don't really want to be discarding cards. Bombard. That's interesting. Hijack's really, cards like this are really cool in a like a sacrifice style deck because you can pinch other people's creatures. This does target artifacts as well, so that wouldn't really be relevant, but it does mean you can take them, and then when you've been done with what you need to do, you can sacrifice it before the end of turn. So okay. So the other thing that going through this has taught me is I would definitely, if you're doing this yourself, take a look at that, the black-white life gain deck, you know, the shell of that, and then maybe splash. I'm just trying to think what, off the top of my head, what would be another good one to splash if you were going to go down that route. But yeah, that's definitely worth a look at. So that sort of black-white. I can't remember what I suggested as doing there. Maybe I did say, yeah, the green, yeah, the sort of black-white green deck that's in here. You might want to just take a look at that as well and see where you get with that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, we've got more than enough stuff here. 47. Okay, yeah, easily. And then we got all of the other stuff, and these ones. This not that one there. What did I do with my? Oh, here we go. Yeah, all of this stuff. Okay, so moving on. Right, so what I'm going to do is, one of my biggest problems when I'm deck building is I never select enough creatures, and so what I'm going to do is what you should always do, which is to split up the creatures from the other spells. I'm going to go for a fairly low spell count on, remember I said about 13 to 18 other spells. We'll try with 13, see what happens, see what that leaves us with the creatures. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to just take out anything that's not either creature or a spell, and it's not a creature. Right, so first of all, let's just see what we've got removal wise. So murder, destroy target creature with power 3 or less. Turn up to 2 target creatures from your graveyard to your hand and discard a card. Yeah, it's going to get stuff back, but then we've got to discard something back into the graveyard, so it's not really, although this is a graveyard matters deck, I'm going to just take that out. Chart creature does care about dying though. You get to draw a card off of that. Could be useful. And we got card draw here, which we're sacking creatures off. So what's more useful? To have an instant or have a we get to draw 2 cards, but we have to sack a creature. More removal. It comes back. That in. Yep. This is pretty tough. Okay, let's put some scaled removal in here. So we'll have lightning strike, and 1 shock. It's any target. It's any target. It's creatures only. Take out bombard. Leave that. Creatures trample. Yep. And we'll only have one shock in there. There's some interesting green removal. And rabbit bite. I'm going to put that in his sideboard card. If you have control a creature, power 4, draw a card. Leave that out for the moment. So what do we got here? One, 2, 3, 4, 13. That's interesting. So I've got 13 of that. So if we did 13, that would mean that we need another 22 if we're going to have 35 spells. May go slightly high on the land, play 25 land, because all the fixing for 3 colours. 22, what's that leave us here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep, we've got more than enough. 1, 22. Alright, 22. We haven't even started to obviously bring these in. I'm going to take out these. I think I've got sufficient removal, so we'll take those out. Equipment, what does this give me? Let's take those out for the moment. Got our 4 creatures there we've got to remember about. Let's stick in a Skittering Sapphire for ramp and just leave in a mana list for the moment. If you remember, we did take out our Darfleet Captain because we weren't playing pirates. Okay, so what I'm probably going to do is, if I do play these, I'm going to take some stuff out of here. I think I'll take that out actually. Even though there is a bit of synergy there. It's a bit too, I don't know, sometimes it's with those stuff, it's sort of rather situational. Although we could do get, yeah, it gets complicated. I'm thinking you could do a sort of fight combo, but it's far too complicated when you start sort of trying to factor in 3 cards. Okay. So what do we want in? So we're playing graveyard. We want everything that enters through the graveyard has got to be in. That's a given. There's removal. We've got stuff that dies, which is our main theme of our deck. Make sure we've got our cool cards. 4, 4, 4, 4. Yeah, these go in. Good old Ship and Dragon. Damage for 5. Do I want rummaging? Nah. It's aggressive deck really. Comes in with haste, don't really want him. That's cool. Pretty aggressive. So I think what we seem to be doing here is going for like hyper aggressive creatures. Okay. 4. Mana ramp. Nah, take that out. Tramply dinosaurs. Yeah. I can't help it. It's a big dinosaur. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18, 19, 20, 27. Okay. I'll make some cuts here. Do I take out a Gravedigger? See, it's even more removal. Do I want removal on a stick? Another thing I could say is, well, Singleton only play one copy of this additional restriction. Okay, here we go. So maybe I should poll these by converted mana cost. Might be quite a good idea at this point. We have quite a few 4-drops in it. Our main worry here is we got like a lot of ones with like 2 mana symbols on, so it's always a problem when you have sort of higher casting cost. Well, this is pretty weird curve. So we've got 2 1-drops, which I think is completely off camera at the moment. Let me just bring that over there. Yeah. There we go. 2 1-drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just our creature curve. 4, 2 drops, 3 3 drops, a whole load of 7 4 drops. Yep. 3 5 drops, 5 6 drops. I think we're in magical Christmas land, and a 12 drop. Which, okay, the good thing is we've got the powerful creatures, so that makes casting this a lot easier. So yeah, what the hell? Let's do this. Okay, so where are you? 1 2 4 5 6 7 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 24 25 25. Okay. That's still too many. Okay. What else are we going to pull? What do you reckon? I mean, I suppose we could do the thing where we go, okay, let's not play multiples of stuff. We're down to 23 now, I think. Is that right? Three. Ah, yeah. There we go. So we've introduced an extra requirement. We're playing a Singleton deck here. Just because, well, you know, reasons. Okay. So we got that down to 22. There's some interesting stuff here. The one thing that concerns me is that with such large creatures, we definitely got to make sure that we're pulling out land as regular as we can. I'm just trying to decide, do we want to +3 +3 into the turn, all creatures able to block it this turn do so. Okay. It's like big lure. It's a power type creature you don't control. For that. I probably want the ramp over the fixing, maybe. Yeah, I'm going to sideboard that. Okay, so how are we doing? Two. 34. So pretty good. 34. We could bring back in something else that we took out. Let's put a Lanoir back in. Helps us with our green. Okay. So basically, that's it. So we've got 35, and now all we've got to do is, if we add 25 to that, we end up with a 60 card deck. So what I'm talking about is 25 land. So how are we going to do this? Well, one way to do it is to basically, obviously we want a rough idea of what our different needs in terms of the colours are. So let me just re-split this up into the colours again. And there's probably more advanced ways to do this. There's a very quick way you can do this by literally counting the number of mana symbols on there, in terms of coloured mana symbols. There's another way I've seen where basically you count for each colour, and then an additional colour you count as half. That's, there's lots to be said for doing that. I'm just going to keep it fairly simple. So for green, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we've got 15 green. And then in red we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 red. And then in black, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in black. So interestingly enough, our main colour is red. So if we were to break that down, and we're playing 25 lands, where does that sort of leave us? So red and black are going to be slightly equal, with red with slightly more. So how might you do this? So 3 8s are 24. So we could do 8, 9, 8. Now most of the I think everything's got double mana in it. That's the only thing. And what I would do is, if anything had like single, mostly all pretty much mana, was all single mana symbols, then I would tend to maybe reduce that one down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is maybe leave it as 8, 9, 8 for the moment. So that gives us a rough idea for the green, red, black breakdown. So we're going to have 8 green, 9 red, 8 black, with the possibility that what I might do is have 8, 10 and 7, 8 green, 10 red, and then 7 for black. But at the moment I'll leave it at 8, 9, 8. Now the other thing is, in doing this, and again as you sort of play this and do sort of sample, good thing to do is just sit there and try some sample hands. You're going to get a feel for where you might be getting having problems with certain colours. Okay, so let's just pull out that, because it's going to change in a moment once I start adding in the fixing. But I just want to get a feel for the, if I had no fixing at all, what would that look like? Okay, so what did we say? We definitely do not want those two colours, all at the tail end of the Wooburg pie. So we said, hang on, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Our red was 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And our green was another 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, looks pretty good. So now we start to think about how might we make the curve a bit smoother. Now, one danger is we've got to be a bit careful here, because all of these mana fixers will slow the deck down. So the problem you've got is you're trying to ramp the deck, but you're then introducing cards into it that could potentially slow the deck down. So it's a trade-off. One easy way to do this would be something along the following lines. Bearing in mind also, out of all the colours, we needed slightly less black. Okay, so we put in the Rupture Spire, because that fixes for all our colours. And then what we do is we're playing, put in one each of the two colours for the colours we're playing. So that would be a Cinder Barrens, a Timber Gorge and a Foul Orchard. So we take out a green, a red and a black. Oh, 2 blacks actually, because we've got the Rupture Spire in. And that is our mana base. Okay. And then what you do is you do a few sample hands, play around with it, see how it performs. And if you notice that you're suffering more from mana fixing problems in terms of fixing for the 2 colours, and that's actually causing you a bigger problem than not being able to ramp into some of the larger creatures, and you want, so the ramp, what the ramp will do is, with ramp you want to be able to cast stuff quickly, so you need the lands out untapped. If you're playing the sort of mana fixers here, we're having to tap lands, so the two work against one another. So I suppose what I'm saying is, basically see how it plays out with the minimal amount of fixing, which is going to impact the ramp. And then if you find that you're having bigger problems with the fixing than you are with the ramp, then just add up the number of the 2 colours in here at the expense of removing the basic lands in the appropriate colours. So you could just keep it simple, add another one of each of those colours, take out one each of the basic lands, see how that plays. What my guess is what you'll find is, with the way these sort of break down and the fact we've got more black red in here, you might find that you put in an additional black red mana fixer and then take out one of the basic lands in one of the other in the appropriate basic land color, that will still complement the number of color casting costs that you need to make the deck play smoothly. So that's where I've ended up with this deck. It's a bit of a monstrosity. That excludes the pun because it's got lots of dinosaurs in, but certainly, like all of these, I get to the end and think, maybe I should have built the white black life gain matters with the with splashing another color like I said, I think I was tempted by green because of the fact that many of those the cards that were there seemed to also care about auras, or that's the way I saw it. So that might be a possibility. Again, the way you sort of logic this is what I tend to do when I'm doing, you know, bordering on the sort of 2 into 3 sort of thing, is I look at the 2 color combination and the sort of synergies I'm getting, and the 2 things that go through my head is, does that synergy, or does some of a large portion of the synergies in that 2 colors, whatever they might be, exist in a 3rd color? And at the same time, by bringing that 3rd color in, am I making up for some of the shortfallings in the other 2 colors? So a good example might be, you might notice you're playing 2 colors, you've got good synergy, but you're missing out on maybe removal, which could be provided by a 3rd color. In this case, supposing we were saying, well, they've got black, white, and there was some good spot removal in red. Well, red might be our splash colour to bring in there. We might bring in a lot of the red removal with single red, and go down that route. So that might be it. Or alternatively, maybe, you know, you're playing white, black. There's a lot of removal you've already got in black. There's a lot of stapled on removal on some of the creature cards. And so maybe that's not so important. Maybe there's a synergy in there that's afforded through either additional creatures or in some enchantments that aren't going to be 2 for 1 in yourself, and so therefore you play those because they enhance some of the synergies which are present at a fairly low level and sort of bring them up a bit. And that's why I think I made the point that when you're doing this with this sort of card pool, where there's there's more one-offs than there are duplicates, it does feel like you're building a Highlander style deck format. Although you're not taking into consideration multiplayer, there's still that thing where you go beyond just the good stuff matters and start thinking about multiple synergies that layer. Anyway, I hope this is useful. I hope it wasn't too rambly yeah, didn't. The trouble is, as soon as, like a lot of people, as soon as I start to see big, swingy creatures, I tend to get distracted by that, and so I think what we've ended up is a sort of dinosaur and dragons John's deck, which I don't see a problem with. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now. I forgot to switch the camera off. Anyway, once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.